What up, guys? Marcus Dynasty Football Dads. We have the top 12 here rankings, and then tomorrow we're going to go through 13 through 24. But realistically, if you look at these 12, and if you've watched any of my videos previously, I feel like we've got this down quite a bit, where it's like you understand who's going to be drafted where, and there's not many surprises that we talked about. I mean, the only surprise that you could potentially talk about is Will Levis. I mean, he was like the only one that we could talk about that would be a potential person that fell because he went into round 2, and that's against Vegas odds. I mean, you look at Vegas odds, he looked like he was going to be a top 10 pick. Probably looked like he was going to be a top 5 pick. And so we just have to look at, well, that's probably the only player and potentially a horrible landing spot in Zach Charbonnet, players that we're going to be talking about as well. So let's just start off the rankings. The first 5, 6, we're just going to go through bang, 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 bang to make this nice and quick for you so you guys can just go on to another video. Number 101, Bijan Robinson, 108 Atlanta. Again, draft capital, size, speed, everything you want. The only thing that you needed was that draft capital. He was a top 10 pick, so number 8 overall, goes to Atlanta. I don't care about any other person on that team. Realistically, they have some amazing, talented players. You got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and you have Bijan Robinson, where it seems like talented players go to die lately, but Bijan Robinson is going to be amazing. Think Cordell Patterson, but even better, I mean, as a runner. So, because Cordell Patterson was a great receiving back, and he produced great running back 1 numbers 2 years ago, and now you're going to look at Bijan Robinson, who is that much even better. 102, Bryce Young. This has been my 102. I feel like everyone has talked about CJ Stroud. They talked about Anthony Richardson. They're finally back on my bandwagon. They're back on the Bryce Young bandwagon. Bryce Young has been my quarterback 1 for basically eternity. We've talked a little bit about Anthony Richardson, taking him in certain situations. And in 1 QB leagues, we're taking Anthony Richardson, of course, ahead of Bryce Young, but not this early. We're taking him at the end of the first. Maybe early second for at least Anthony Richardson. So Bryce Young, 102 here. First overall pick to Carolina. I mean, it's almost like I wish I would have put money on Bryce Young being the number 1 picked quarterback because I thought he was the best quarterback. And just in general, when you look at NFL needs, you got to go with the best quarterback here. He's maybe not the best fantasy upside quarterback. That goes to 103, Anthony Richardson here. 103, Anthony Richardson. 104 to the Colts. Gets Jonathan Taylor, gets Michael Pittman, gets Josh Downs. Like, he has the weapons around him to be a successful quarterback. He just needs to make sure that he can learn and grow into the molds of Jalen Hurts even, where your passing goes from basically your running back to a somewhat competent passing quarterback. That's all we need out of Anthony Richardson here. And 103 is the spot for here for him. 104, CJ Stroud, goes to 102, Houston. Again, top 5 pick, you're going to have top 5. You talk about talent-wise for CJ Stroud. He's extremely talented. Houston comes up and trades for 103. I was hoping they would get somebody at, they have 10, 12, something like that. I was hoping they would get a JSM, they would get a Jordan Addison, they would get a Quentin Johnston, somebody else on that team, but they didn't. So CJ Stroud here, 104, 105. This is where you're going to have the questions, and we talked about it right after the draft, of round 1 at least. We were like, Jahmyr Gibbs has now fallen behind Jaxon Smith-Njigba unless they trade for, unless they trade away DeAndre Swift. And they traded away him to the Eagles. So now it's now it's Gibbs over JSN. And so Gibbs is going to be my 105. He goes to 112. The only thing that you're looking at is size, is his only downfall. But you have a top 12 pick in the first round, which is, I think, I'm shocked. I mean, that is a crazy hyper talented but hyper drafted running back. I mean, when you get a running back in now these days, if you would have just said Bijan Robinson, not in this class, Jahmyr Gibbs drafted 112, think about the clamoring. I mean, this is almost the problem with what happened with Pat Freiermuth. When it was Pat Freiermuth and Kyle Pitts, everyone was talking about Kyle Pitts, but it was like, Pat Freiermuth is still really talented. Bijan Robinson, everyone's talking about the running back 1 in Dynasty overall, and that's everybody. That's including Breece Hall and Jonathan Taylor and everybody. We kind of forget about Jahmyr Gibbs being a top 7-ish. I think I had him at 6 a couple months ago. He's probably going to stay right around that area. The Jamal Charles reincarnated. People tell me it's Kamara. He is not Alvin Kamara. They are not the same player. It is more Jamal Charles-esque, CJ Spiller-esque for his talent. 106 JSN, 120 to Seattle. I love the spot for him. When they said Seattle, I was like, whoo, Tyler Lockett's getting to be that point where he's getting older. He's going to be less effective. You're going to have Geno Smith. We'll see what happens there. But you have DK Metcalf to kind of take out the outer half here. Think of Devontae Smith's season he just had. That is what you're going to potentially have in JSN. And if you said, hey, you're going to get a top 12 season on a JSN because a lot of it's going to go to DK, but you're going to have enough volume inside and short, and with some of the route running and the separation, you're going to have that 6 to 20 area for JSN for the next 7-8 years. You are buying it. And so this is a huge drop-off tier-wise. We have to understand that. Huge drop-off tier-wise. You hear me that right. 106 is a huge drop-off. If you are 107, you're probably pissed because you're like, man, why couldn't Will Levis get drafted earlier and push this down a spot? 107, we're going to go with Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, 123 to my skull. Minnesota Vikings. Woo! Yes. I actually really like Jordan Addison. He's been my wide receiver too. Yes, a little bit undersized. Great at separation. Great at the route running. Reminds me Stefon Diggs light-esque, which is kind of funny because Stefon Diggs was a Minnesota Viking. He just has some of that ability to create and separate, like he's playing like he's a basketball player playing on the football field and just gets that separation. And so I really love the Jordan Addison play here. And I know that he's going to have limited upside because of JJ. But again, wide receiver 2s are extremely valuable. And at this point, the cliff is we're starting to get towards the cliff of where this talent starts to fall off and the risk-reward ratio starts to go. So number 108, we're going to go with Quentin Johnston. He's not my favorite wide receiver, but he goes to Los Angeles Chargers. We have another year. Gosh, now I'm trying to backtrack myself. Did he say 2023 or 2024? We have Mike Williams for another at least year. We'll see if they end up. There's always ways to cut him or get out of that money and stuff. But Keenan Allen getting older, which I thought they were going to go Jordan Addison at first or Zay Flowers, but they went with the bigger wide receiver. So Herbert is the quarterback that can get it to him. And so QJ has some huge upside because he needed a wide receiver to be able to be a very pinpoint accuracy wide receiver, and he gets Herbert. And so he falls into a great situation for him at least. So I'm very interested to see how he does, but he's going to be my 108 here. 109, this is always a tough spot. And this is where we start to really go, okay, do we go tight end? Do we go running back? Do we go wide receiver? Do we go quarterback when Will Levis? I'm telling you here, 109 and below, we start to hit another tier break here. This is another tier that we've talked about. When we start falling off these tiers, this is a huge, huge thing. And then there's probably a good 4 or 5 players. And then after that, we really go into the depths of like, oh my goodness, I don't like this at all. And you're starting to draft players that are into that tier of like, well, you're going to have the Dwayne Eskridge, Tutu Atwell, and Kadarius Toney, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's just an example of a tier, and you go, okay, well, one of them's going to hit, and 3 of them are going to suck. Which one is it going to be? And so that's going to be what happens after this tier. I'm going to go right now, 109, Dalton Kincaid. I just have really, I've liked his tape. I didn't think he was going to get this draft capital. I honestly didn't think he was going to get this type of talent, or this type of capital with his limited experience basically in college and everything. And now he gets to go in Buffalo's offense, which I understand Dawson Knox is there, but Dalton Kincaid could easily be used in the Travis Kelce type of role. And that type of upside, you just don't get anywhere. I mean, Michael Mayer is awesome, but like, yeah, he was round 2, goes to the Raiders. The Raiders are going to be okay. They're not going to be great. I mean, you have literally a tight end and we've seen Dawson Knox, the peaks of Dawson Knox, the little trailers, the little like, oh, look at this is what he can do, 2 touchdowns, and then all of a sudden you don't see him for 3-4 weeks. I think Dalton Kincaid can be more consistent, and they see what Travis Kelce and Kansas City keeps doing to him. So why don't they get their own athletic, good tight end? I love it here. So 109, Dalton Kincaid. Honestly, this is where I'm really tearing apart myself. How far does Will Levis drop? I'm going to let him drop a little bit further. Devon Achane, 110, goes to the absolutely perfect spot, round 3. Pick over 21 overall in round 3. If you told me a team, pick Devon Achane on a team. In fact, I did that a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was like a month ago. And I picked Miami because I think Miami is the absolute perfect situation for his speed, his ability to be Raheem Mostert-ish. I mean, you look at Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert plays in the system, a Shanahan-type system, and they do a lot of like outside zone, and they do a lot of just kind of speed stuff. And Devon Achane is that. He runs a 4.3 40. He is this. And so Devon Achane, definitely a great one here. Number 111, we're going to go Tyjae Spears. I am going to have him trick up into this little area because I do think Derrick Henry's demise or Derrick Henry's end is near. But this could be, Tyjae Spears could be, he's a very boomer bust player. this could be a great pick for Tyjae Spears. Like, he could be one of those that I love his talent, I love his film, but then when you look at, well, I mean, he could be the Devin Singletary where all of a sudden they just draft somebody in the second round next year, and you're like, well, that sucks. Like, that's not exactly what I wanted. Or the Darrell Henderson, when we've seen this where you're like, ooh, this could be a good situation. Todd Gurley leaves, Darrell Henderson in, you're like, okay, I'm feeling good, boom, Cam Akers drafted. Devin Singletary has a potential spot there, boom, James Cook. So this could be a false, this could be a pick that ends up being that like those. So I just want to kind of say that could be the realm, or it could be a pick that ends up being, he could be transitioned into being the next running back of the Tennessee Titans based off of his physicality and his talent. So just something to note here. 112, we're going to go Will Levis, second round. This is where he falls to. More and more I talk about it, I almost want him over Tyjae Spears. Whatever. I'm going to just keep it the way it is for now. I might move him back and forth. But if you're quarterback needy at 111, 110, take Will Levis. He has the ability and the talent. Like, we've seen him as being rumored a top 10 quarterback to being a quarterback that can succeed at the next level. There are definitely some big red flags and concerns. But at this point, he's an early second-round quarterback. You got to take him. So then next time, we'll talk about Zay Flowers. We'll talk about Hendon Hooker. We'll talk about some more tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, all that through 13 through 24. Peace out. Take care.